Hi, I'm Leanne Ely. I'm a nutritionist, a New York Times best-selling author, and some people even say I'm a life coach. I started the Daily Dish Show to share my story, my truth, and my journey to vibrancy, and to inspire others to do the same. Because it's all about grit, perseverance, and finding a way despite the odds. It's about embracing the whole woman, not just the parts that are easy to love, and feeding her heart, mind, body, and soul. But I found that this isn't just my story, it's your story too. It's go time. This is the Daily Dish. Let's get into this because a gut instinct, I believe, is so worthy of discussion. So it's called the enteric nervous system that's in your gut. Now, this, if you were to open up your small intestine and lay it flat, it would cover the entire area of a football field. You have about 23 feet of intestinal tract for your small intestine. Isn't that amazing? But with all that surface, it's going to cover everything. There's over 100 million neurons involved. 100 million. So, the neurons and the neurotransmitters that are in your intestinal tract like that, the enteric nervous system, it is the same type, not exact same, that's in the central nervous system, which is, your brain and your spinal cord. So that's why we get told that there's, you've got your second brain in your gut because they are so similar as far as all the neurons and neurotransmitters are concerned. And does it think exactly the same way? No, but it gives feelings, doesn't it? You know that gut feeling that you have? You know that butterfly in your stomach thing that you have? That's separate from your central nervous system, by the way. That is your gut operating. Isn't that interesting? And did you know too, this is further on in my notes, but this is interesting. I did not know this, that we all have the monkey brain, the monkey brain, the stem basically, that just basically takes care of business, your breathing, your heart beating and all of that. But your digestive system is on its own. We don't need that because it knows what to do because of all of that. Isn't that fascinating? I thought that was so interesting. So while your gut brain access and your this connection isn't going to give you like the ability to think about complex thoughts, it's not going to have the same abstract thinking capacity like the prefrontal cortex has, for example, or big decision making. It does have the ability to give you a sense of right and wrong, a sense of, yes, this is something that I want to do. And quite honestly, it's the thing that's most connected to your intuition. So scientists tells us that it plays a huge role in disease. And it also, like 95% of the communication that goes from your gut to your brain isn't necessarily good information. It's basically like what you're eating, how you're digesting. There's communication then going up to your brain. And your brain might just say, we're on fire, send out the inflammation. And that's what happens because there's communication constantly going from your gut up to your brain. And, your brain is turning off and on inflammation based on what your gut is telling your brain. It's so fascinating. So the gut knows, and the gut does all of this stuff all by itself because it's so smart. Who knew that you had such a smart gut? So it's also a part of our emotional intelligence because it's learning how to trust and discern what a gut feeling is. For some of us, it's just off the radar. And there's a lot of us, other people, who they only rely on that. So two things that we need to know about this idea of a gut feeling and intuition and all of this stuff and how it's all wrapped up together. And the number one thing is that gut feelings can be eerily accurate. I know you could all tell me a story of a gut feeling that you had and you were just dead on. But number two is gut feelings can also be flat out wrong and deceptive, because oftentimes, and we all know people like this, right? They think they're just going from their gut, and they think that they're always right when that's clearly not the case. Nobody has that kind of capacity, not this side of glory anyway. Nobody has the ability to be able to do that. So we have to look at this, because gut feelings can both be very scientific. This is what all the brain research is telling us right now, and it can also be kind of woo-woo, intuitive feeling stuff. Isn't that funny? So it runs the gamut from over here to over here. And how do you put these things together? Well, the Harvard Review, Gary Klein was one of the authors of a research study, and he makes the case. This is what he says: the trust in intuition is understandable, but it's also dangerous. Intuition has its place in decision, meaning that you shouldn't ignore it or ignore your instincts any more than you should ignore your conscience. But intuition can be fickle and undependable, and it can be an undependable guide, just as likely to lead to disaster as it is to success. Now, I just can't help but say this, and forgive me, but it's a guy who wrote this. A guy said this. Come on, I know that wasn't lost on you, right? Didn't you notice this? It was a guy. Because I believe that our intuitions can be developed, and we can test them, and there are things that we can do to become more intuitive and to become somebody who has a gut instinct that can be dependable. Now, when I say this, that doesn't mean that we're going to be 100% right on the money all the time, because that's just not how we operate. We're still human beings. We haven't transcended our humanness by saying that we can develop our intuition and develop our gut instincts. We're not. We're just saying that they can be developed. And I think one of the biggest things that we can do, starting right now today, is to notice them, because so often we shut them down because we're too busy people pleasing. We're too busy trying to do other things than to be really in touch with what's going on with ourselves. That's the truth. But this is the thing with intuition, because this is the definition of it. Intuition is the ability to acquire knowledge or understand something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning. We all understand that. And we've had gut instincts before, and we've known when things just weren't right. And thank God for that. I believe God puts that in us and gives us that ability. I believe it's a divine ability, and it's from God himself. It's how he equipped us. But we have to, of course, go into this place of understanding, how do we develop that? How do we develop that without being cocky and arrogant and saying, oh, I just have this gut instinct and I just agree with this all the time and go after it? We can, but it's not always going to be 100% accurate. I want you to really embrace that, because otherwise, that's when we start getting into this place of arrogance. And, I've got something that Cheryl Strayed said that I think is really on the money. Good one, Ellen. Yeah, that's a really good book. Really good book. So a healthy gut, of course, is going to help you with the feeling that you have, that gut feeling. But there's something, again, this is something that we can develop. And I've got 7 things for you. And then I'm going to read something that Cheryl Strayed said on trusting your gut, because it was a gut punch. Can I just say, it really was a gut punch. Really well said. And I'm going to go through all of these things. You can write them down. They will be in the show notes. Like I said, if you get the show notes, that'll help you out. But if this is something that you're interested in doing, I first just want to recommend that you get in touch with the fact that, yeah, you've got this gut feeling. Yes, you have this gut instinct. Yes, it's God-given. And yes, it can be developed. First, just acknowledge the fact that it exists in the first place, right? I think that's super important and absolutely imperative if we're to move off the dime and into this place of actually developing it. It's got to be acknowledged, number one, first and foremost, before we even start. So that's 1A. Let's go with that. But the number one thing that we can do is get in touch with who we are. And it's a meditative practice. Oh my goodness, have I ever said that? You know, all meditation does is it turns the lens inward. I love the way that's what they always say in my meditation when I do my Peloton meditation. It's just turning the lens inward. We're constantly being bombarded with images, constantly. There's our homes, there's stuff hanging on the wall, there's people, there's books to read, there's the internet here, there's things everywhere. I don't know about you, but my world has a lot of things in it that I find to be relaxing and fun to look at. And I enjoy the art on the wall. I enjoy my home, but I also enjoy turning inward to connect up with who I am, because I've noticed that the more that I'm able to do that, the more I'm able to develop the undeveloped things in my life. It gives me an opportunity to just put that lens inward and just be with myself. I almost think that's somewhat of a lost art form, because when we don't have that opportunity to be with ourselves, we feel really disconnected. This brings in the connection and it grounds us. That's what a meditative practice does. And the interesting thing is that the longer you do it, the easier it is to stop listening to all the outside voices and to just fall into that place of immediacy of being able to meditate. And that's just recently started happening with me. I can fall into a meditative place very quickly. And what a relief that is, because that helps me to get to the next thing that I've got on my list of things to do, which I know it sounds like that sounds really bad, but it helps because I have this whole ritual that I perform every single morning and at night. And it helps to get to that place so that if you can quickly get into that place of just being grounded, of having the lens inward, then you can start doing the rest of the work. Okay. And that part of that work too is number 2 is noticing. And this is the deal. When we're connecting with all of our senses, when we're seeing something, we're hearing something, we're tasting something, smelling something, all of that helps to ground us and helps us to become more intuitive to our surroundings and the things around us. Because you know what it feels like. You've noticed, I'm sure, what it feels like to not notice anything and then all of a sudden say, wow, I never even saw that. That's been there all this time. I've never even seen it before. It's like that. But when we start to begin to consciously notice and using as many senses as we can, our intuition perks up. Number 3 is to pay attention to your dreams and to your thoughts. The conscious mind the cognitive mind is constantly fighting the subconscious mind. And we kind of duck into just living out in the subconscious, but with all kinds of stuff that's going on, we're not into what's really into our subconscious because we're not paying attention to those thoughts and dreams. So here's the deal. And I've noticed this for myself, and I bet you've noticed this as well, that when there's too much chit chat going on, when there's too much stimulation in my world, too much of everything going on, and too many meetings, too many this, too much that, I find myself in the place where I'm suddenly starting to have like these really peculiar dreams. And if you pay attention to those, oftentimes it's because you haven't had that time to connect. Maybe you didn't take that day to have your meditative practice or your journaling, which is next. It's in there somewhere. But all of these things make a difference, and they tune you in to that intuitive thing that's you. This is where your intuition lives. It's right, and you can feel it. You can feel that intuition. When you're meditating, you immediately, that's where you tune into too, right here. So the whole thing kind of gels together, doesn't it? And number 4, of course, is the journaling. Your journaling is an insight right there. You will find journaling insights in your journaling. Today I wrote like 5 words. That's all I had for my journal today. Some days I'll write pages. Other days I just don't have much. But today I just wrote just some words that had come to me during my meditation practice, and it was enough. It's all I needed. I think when we allow for that kind of thing, then we can see it. And I think too, the review of our journals will often give us clues as to what's going on. And again, that helps to tighten up this whole process of becoming a more intuitive player, if you will. And that's part of your emotional intelligence. Number 5 is, you knew I was going to go here, right? Is to feed your gut. Well, listen, your gut is what causes your health to flourish or not. And most of us are unfortunately victims of leaky guts, but we need to proactively be in the place of doing something to constantly be healing our gut. Did you know stress is one of the biggest ones, the biggest taker downers of guts? And if you've got any kind of autoimmune disease or what have you, then you already know about having a leaky gut, because obviously you do. Probiotic, prebiotic. So apple cider vinegar, you could take the ACV pills, you can do all of that. Lots of greens, any kind of prebiotic fiber is going to help. All of these things lend itself to building your gut and giving your gut the things that the probiotics need to eat, and repopulating the probiotics as well. Very important. And then we heal our gut by managing our stress. You start over on number 1, start with a meditative practice. This really helps. It calms things down. We need to go to that calm place. A prayer practice, and however it is that you do it, but all of this is really necessary for you to be able to bring things into a place of moving into an intuitive nature and understanding what your intuition is more about. We play around on the sides of it and don't quite get into there. This is not like, psychic 101. I'm not saying that at all, by the way. This is not what this is about. It is about developing that part of you that is probably neglected, because I think we so often neglect our intuition. Healing your gut, though, is also really important. Like I said, bringing down your stress levels. Also taking L-glutamine. L-glutamine is, it's one of those things that just helps so much with healing your gut. Your gut health, that's everything. You got to have a healthy gut. And yes, they do play into each other. And yes, they are connected. The health of our gut is directly, absolutely on a parallel with the health of our brains as well. Did you know that? You don't want to shrink your brain. We have enough of that stuff going on. Also, movement is critical. Get out and walk. Get out and do something. Did you know 95% of the serotonin in your body lives in your gut? That's how it's released, is when we move. And serotonin, that's a feel-good hormone. Makes you feel good. It makes you feel calm, centered, balanced. Doesn't that work so well? It expresses itself. I love it so much. I think it's the most wonderful thing. Number 7 is to connect with nature. You've probably heard of the term grounding. Difficult to do. We have a lot of snow out on the ground right now. Difficult to do in snow, but certainly when you see the ground, take off your shoes and put your feet on the ground. There's an energy transfer there. Everything's vibrational, y'all. And I'm not being ooga booga weird, new wave, new agey weirdo. I'm not pulling anything out of my hat here. I'm not making any threats to anybody's, religious whatevers. No, I'm just telling you what is. This is scientifically proven. They have measured it. There are devices that they can measure these kind of things. So when we connect to nature, it automatically calms us down. It helps us to move some of this excess energy out, and it renews our energy. Also, forest bathing. I'm giving you all the words, right? I think forest bathing is just another word for walking in the forest and enjoying all the trees and, listening to the leaves. Number 6 was movement, Margaret. Jeanette says she totally relates to vibration. She's read a lot about it. Isn't it so nice? Yes. Darla used her L-glutamine last night to cut a craving for chocolate chips. Isn't it crazy how it works? It's so crazy. So Cheryl Strayed, she wrote, what was her big book that she wrote? And why can't I think of the name of the book that she wrote? And there was a movie. I can't think of it. You know the one I'm talking about. Anyway, she wrote a big book. And why can't I think of the name of that movie? Come on, someone help me out. You know the movie? I can't remember. Somebody's going to put it out there. But here's what she said about trusting your gut. Don't do what you know on a gut level to be the wrong thing. Wild. Yes, that's it, Susan. You're exactly right. And who was the gal who was in it? Reese Witherspoon. That's who it was. Okay, there you go. Thank you. All right. Don't do what you know on a gut level to be the wrong thing to do. Don't stay when you know you should go, or go when you know you should stay. Don't fight when you should hold steady, or hold steady when you should fight. Don't focus on the short-term fun instead of the long-term fallout. Don't surrender all your joy for an idea you used to have about yourself that isn't true anymore. Don't seek joy at all costs. She said, I know it's hard to know what to do when you have a conflicting set of emotions and desires. Now, this one I'm thinking about when I say this one, think about what your goals are and about the procrastination of, like it's time to work out and you're like, I don't want to do that right now. Think about that, right? Think about this. I know it's hard to do what to do when you have a conflicting set of emotions and desires, but it's not as hard as we pretend it to be. Saying it's hard is ultimately a justification to do whatever seems like the easiest thing to do. Have the affair, stay at that horrible job, end a friendship over a slight, keep loving someone who treats you terribly. I don't think there's a single dumbass thing I've done in my adult life that I didn't know was a dumbass thing to do while I was doing it. Even when I justified it to myself, as I did every damn time, the truest part of me knew I was doing the wrong thing. Always. As the years pass, I'm learning how to better trust my gut and not do the wrong thing. But every once in a while, I get a harsh reminder that I've still got work to do. I thought that was so good. And this whole thing, and the whole reason that we're talking about this is that in order to develop strong emotional intelligence, we have to look at the full concept of what emotions drive. It drives our thinking, it drives our doing, and it drives the things that we say, it drives the way that we are. And sometimes our belief system's a little wonky, and sometimes our gut instincts are a little bit off, but they can be developed. It's part of being an emotionally intelligent woman. Bye-bye. Peace.
Thank you for joining me today. You can find me on TikTok for daily tips to help support your most vibrant life. And remember, you are the author of your own story. Until next time.